Hello everyone, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Abe.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Josh too. Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here. And welcome back to my 25 Days of Christmas review series. And today I'm going to be reviewing the remake of the original Miracle on 34th Street from 1994.
A house, a brother, and a dad. That's what I want for Christmas.
I'll see what I can do.
This is it.
I am the parent. You are the friendly guy down the hall.
The new holiday classic that America has been waiting for.
We think she's the most beautiful woman in the whole world.
I just got some mistletoe. Why don't we go back to my place and try it out?
Miracle on 34th Street.
I knew it.
Rated PG. The miracle begins in 3 days.
The remake of Miracle on 34th Street stars Richard Attenborough, Elizabeth Perkins, Dylan McDermott, Mara Wilson, and it's directed by Les Mayfield. The plot of the 1994 Miracle on 34th Street is practically the same plot to the original, which, if you've seen the original, you already know the plot of this movie, which is basically about, Richard Attenborough's character in this case, but he goes by the name of Kris Kringle, and he's basically hired as a department store Santa just off the street somewhere by big store at the time, Macy's, to basically be their department store Santa for the parade and that. He signs the contract with them and all that stuff, and basically he's eventually have to be put on court because he truly believes he is the real Santa Claus. And he's having to be put on court to deem whether or not he is mentally insane or not. It's really the same plot as the original. So yeah, it's a remake, so therefore has the same basic plot to the original. Before I get on to my positives and negatives, I will say, this was my first time watching a remake. It was my first time recently watching both versions this year. And I did love the original, actually. I gave that one like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely what has become one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. One I would probably rewatch next year for Christmas. And probably one I would actually show to any kids I may have in the future, actually. If I were to have children, I would show them the original, actually. That's how good I thought it was. And I was actually really curious about the remake, especially since I heard Richard Attenborough's in as the character. And I do really like him as an actor in that. And I think he could pull off a kind of Santa Claus-like portrayal really well. So I was really curious about this one. I just got done watching it. And I guess I'll give you my thoughts. What are my positives with this remake? Honestly, for me, I would say the editing, I think, for the most part, is better than the original, actually. There were some editing problems I have with the original. Like, the editing in the original was a bit too choppy for me. This one, it's much more smooth and streamlined editing. Now, to the film's credit, I do like Richard Attenborough, in this movie. I think he is trying his best with what he has to work with. And, I still could see him as a Santa Claus-like figure. I think, he definitely had the personality of that. And honestly, before I get any further, I would like to give a moment of silence to Richard Attenborough. I mean, hope wherever he is now, he's in a much better place. And, he was such a good actor in that, and he seemed like such a nice guy. Somebody I would have liked to meet. I grew up with this actor through the Jurassic Park movies as John Hammond. And, the world will dearly miss him, actually. So, especially people who grew up with his movies and that. So a moment of silence for Sir Richard Attenborough. That kind of got emotional. But yeah, I think he did a good job with what he had to work with as Kris Kringle in this. But I do have issues with his portrayal, unfortunately. I don't have issues with his acting because I think he acted, the way they needed him to portray the character really well. It's just I didn't really care for the portrayal of the character, what they were wanting to do with him. Also, I would say the pacing of this film is actually not bad, actually. I think the pacing of this film is pretty good. Not as good as pacing in the original movie, but still decent, especially decent for a film from the early 90s. Like, from the early mid-90s, actually. And those are my only positives, I'm sorry. What are my negatives with this remake? Honestly, for me, and I tried to be optimistic about this. I tried to have it both come from point of, does this film stand on its own merits? If there was no original film to this, would this have worked? Just on its own merits. At least for me. But at the same time, too, since it's a remake, I also felt like I had to compare it to the original, And, there's a lot, and I was looking at it from both angles, and I feel like the film does not work a lot on both angles. For one, I would definitely say, honestly, the best way I would describe the remake is that it is very much of a, cartoonish, over-dramatic, and over-exaggerated version of the original Miracle on 34th Street. And this one, for example, I feel like there's, too much cartoonish moments in it. I guess to try to entertain little kids or try to make little kids laugh and that, and I think that does kind of insult the intelligence of the audience. Whereas the original film didn't need to do that at all. And here's the thing, I get it's a remake. You want to do some different stuff with it, but, at the same time, the way they're going about it does, is at the cost of the audience intelligence, actually. Speaking of which, I really do not like the fact that they practically have antagonists in this movie. The original did not have an antagonist really whatsoever. That wasn't the main focus or anything, but in this they turned, the rival store company and that into this big bad, corporation type villains and that. Even lighting them in kind of like low-key lighting and that, trying to make them sinister and that, in a sense, kind of like sleazy, sinister. And that's not what the original was, actually. There was no villains, if you will. And, the whole thing of making corporations and that and the rich, big baddies in movies, has been done to death at this point. Even at this point in the 90s, which I think it really started in the 90s when they started to use that cliche. So, and they've been using it ever since whenever they bring up, these types of characters. And knowing that they rush a lot of certain stuff, in my personal opinion, I feel like there wasn't as much time built on the two main couple, which, I'm not sure if it's because of the times or whatnot, but, I did felt much more of, the blooming, romance of, the character, two of the main characters in the original, like the two main couple in the original. It was much more natural, in my opinion, much more of a natural progression, to the point where you actually start to really care about said characters. And knowing that, again, they play it a bit over-exaggerated with this. In fact, the first time they go on a date in that, they play this kind of, almost sultry, sexy type version of a Christmas jingle and that. And it's very cheesy, it's very overblown. And on that, I would say, even Richard Attenborough's version of Kris Kringle, I would say was even rushed too. And that, and some, like for example, when he was committed into a mental hospital and that, both versions he, failed, he purposely failed the, mental examination and like the tests and that. But the reasons for why he does it is different. In the original, he does it because, he's like, looks on at the world and that, how some people, like, a lot of people are, and it's like, he even says it's like if well like if says something along the lines like you know if that's if that's really the idea of being sane and I don't want to have any part of it. And that's some really powerful stuff, actually. This, he just basically, and they overplayed the reason why he got committed in that, with actually hurting someone in that. They overplayed it a lot. Again, I think this film is way too over exaggerated. And again, in the original, there was no bad guy or anything. There wasn't even anybody really egging him on to, get him violent in the original. In the original, it's like he couldn't stand, what somebody was doing, actually, as far as, moral values and that, and he just kind of had a moment where he just lost it and just, hit the person over the head with his cane, and, it wasn't overplayed or anything like that. This one is very overdramatic. You have the former department store Santa and that, going in and trying to antagonize him in that, because he was actually set up by the rival company in that, who's trying to, again, he was hired by, quote unquote bad guys, to try to egg Kris Kringle on, for him to attack. And even the way they did that was over exaggerated and everything, and even certain music cues in that seemed so over dramatic. And in the original, the two main couple, like I said, I don't think they even got married or anything in the original, at least you didn't see it. In this one, you do, and the way they have it done is so over exaggerated. Even the ending, is over exaggerating that, and it's not subtle at all. It doesn't even play any subtlety as far as whether or not Kris Kringle is truly the genuine Santa Claus or not, because it. Also, I didn't like the version of the little girl in this one. I think she was too. Even, because here's the thing, in the original, she was raised to kind of be, not a normal kid in that, she didn't seem like was the fun spirit in that, but at the same time, she did seem intelligent in that, and respectful in that, and, even somewhat nice in that, and I think the original actress did a fine job, actually, a really great job, actually. Especially for a child actress, especially for the time, and, the first, the version for that character in this one, even before she started to believe in Santa Claus and that, started to get those ideals, she still she comes across as too, precious, and that, it's and it's kind of overblown in that, and it honestly kind of doesn't match the type of character she's supposed to be with the type of parents she was raised under in that, household and everything. So with this said, I'm going to give the 1994 Miracle on 34th Street a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, it's close to being just okay, but, I'm even trying to judge this as a film on its own. I don't think it works on a film on its own. I know there's some people out there who do love this movie and consider it a classic and that, and I kind of get that, but at the same time too, especially from watching the original and that, because I had to compare it to the original, because if it's a remake, you kind of have to. It's hard not to compare it to the original. I felt like the original was much more, subtle, had a lot more intelligence to it, even a lot more class. There was no real villains or anything like that. It wasn't cheesy at all, by any means. This one was everything that film isn't. So, and it's a shame too, because again, I think Richard Attenborough could have portrayed Kris Kringle well, actually, and this character well. And I think he does a decent job at it, but the way, I think he does a really good job with what he had to work with and the type of portrayal he had to do, but I just really didn't care for this portrayal of Kris Kringle. There were some moments I felt like there, were nice moments with him, but overall, didn't really care for this version. I definitely won't be watching this one over the original. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.